so I have to
Oh,
all right, here we go. Recording in progress. All right, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Prop Tech Genius Show. And I'm your host, Amy Palvido. I'm the chairwoman of the U.S. Prop Tech Council. And the genius in the hot seat today is CJ Follini. Hey, CJ, how are you?
I wish my wife considered me a genius.
Well, I like to flatter people when
I
they
get
come
the
on the
opposite of
show.
that a lot of times. What's the opposite name from genius on the other end of the spectrum? Whatever that is. And if it's okay for young years, that's what I get a lot. So it's funny.
That is funny. That is funny. Well, welcome. Thanks for coming on the show. You have such a cool background and you've been around, and we actually bumped into each other on other real estate conferences, and that's kind of how I met CJ way back in the day. Was I was moderating a panel and he was cracking me up like he does now.
Yeah,
It was so funny. I can't remember what the topic was. It's been that long, but
it's
it's
been
been
long.
awesome.
It's been a minute. But I mean, let's
Yeah.
be honest. At conferences, especially real estate conferences, the laughs are few and far between. So I have my own. I basically have my own stage because no one else is is no one else is
No,
making anyone laugh. I can assure you at
I
those
know.
conferences.
Oh, that's so funny. All right. Well, why don't you start off and tell my audience kind of what you do and who you are and where you've been and what you're doing now? How's that?
Okay, thank you. I
Mm-hmm.
love having the microphone and just going, just riffing.
Just go. Ribbit.
Let's see. Where do I start on the background? It is, as some would say, a snake's ass of an iterative background. Uh, I'll just do the relevant. So I have my journey actually be in wealth management. Yes, I know we're here to talk about real estate, and I will come back to that. But and it really all begins with real estate, whether you call it wealth management or not. I managed a
Mm-hmm.
multifamily office starting as a single family office for 35 years. My father had a stroke. We were in real estate and construction, mostly construction, but real estate development and building. I was just doing nothing and playing professional hockey and having a wonderful life. And then he had a stroke when I was 20, and that wonderful life went bye bye.
Oh,
It's still been a wonderful life. It was wonderful. That was a
yeah.
fun one. This was a little bit more directed and responsible. So from
Mm-hmm.
that beginning, and which all began with real estate, I then took on additional families, and we've had a nice long journey for 35 plus years, 87 to, let's say, 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly real estate. So we were across multiple asset classes, but it was well over 60, about 60% in of our portfolio, which at its peak was $1 billion AUM. 60% was in commercial real estate, no residential. Some of our families were large residential owners, developers. So we stayed away from residential as a group, as a syndicate. But last mile logistics, healthcare, life science, student housing,
Yeah.
a form of residential, I guess. Parking, which is now last mile logistics,
Mm-hmm.
cold storage and outdoor storage, which
Right.
used to be called just land.
Right.
So that's what we did for a very long time. That all changed in 2019-ish when two of our nine patriarchs passed away. That began a discussion with the next generation. And then COVID right after that. Then I had two sons, wonderfully, but very late in life. Young man's game, by the way. Let me just tell you that right now.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
know.
I said
I know.
commitment without sacrifice is nothing, and I've sacrificed that hair for the commitment to both sons and business. Um, so that transition, all these bell ringing events of the end of our investment committee with those two patriarchs, my life event of sons and COVID made me really stop sailing on a Wednesday in sort of a 30-year routine and start to
Mm-hmm.
take stock of where the world, where we as a
Mm-hmm.
country, all the circles from giant to me today, where they're headed. What's the next chapter? And for me, that is both education. It's Noyak, if I'm going to give my shameless plug alert. So if you want to go get coffee, anyone, go now. The shameless plug is Noyak is a ecosystem of wealth management, of starting with a nonprofit education, promoting financial literacy to next generation. And the other side of Noyak, that's Noyak Wealth Club. Noyak Investing Club is the enablement pillar. Education as empowerment, fund, direct-to-consumer funds, real estate being primary, as enablement. And targeting millennials, millennial Henrys, just in case anyone's not sure. Henry is a high earner, not rich yet acronym. And it's actually, I think, going to be the most important demographic for those marketing people out there, really anyone. If you're speaking to this group, if you're speaking to millennials, you should be speaking to Henrys and their problems and their concerns and their issues and solving those problems, issues, concerns.
So say that acronym again. So higher earning.
Henry means high earner, not rich yet.
Not
every
rich
bank,
yet.
every asset manager, if you just search that, you'll see 30 white papers, ebooks, et cetera, et cetera. Everyone is trying to, from a marketing and sales standpoint, let me just be clear. Everyone is trying to decode and identify. And we actually spent many months and a considerable sum of money to create a 37-slide demographic profile. Amy, I'll give it to you for free. Don't worry. No, anyone else here, they're going to have to give me their email. So, and it's really interesting. And so that transition, I said, for me personally, what I've done for 3 decades to now is really about learning this next, what's going to happen next. So part of it, great wealth transfer. Also, tons of research being done by financial institutions to say our clients are dying, unfortunately, but inevitably they're dying, and we are not talking to our next ones. What's up? How? What do they want? What are their problems? This conversation has been going on for easily 3 years now, and it's accelerating. And every single boardroom at every single asset manager at every single giant bank has a committee about this topic. Okay. Great wealth transfer, millennials and millennial Henry behaviors. So we do too. And we spent thousands of hours about that. We have a deck about the great wealth transfer. That's also for you for free.
Awesome.
And very simple. I do this as a keynote, the great wealth transfer. Very simply, millennials are in this generation. Millennial generation is inheriting more money than ever passed down before. And they're doing, and they're receiving it faster than any next generation in history. And then they get into the wealth management stuff. They're leaving legacy wealth managers faster than any generation in history. That's true. It's I by the way, funny little side note. The first time I gave this keynote was at a registered investment advisor conference. I'm not kidding. I talk about someone who doesn't know their audience. So I started, it was full room. I'm up on the stage. I'm saying,
of course you did.
Half left. Like they literally just all got up and left half. So now I'm talking to half a room. And then I said another slide, another half of the remaining half left. So here I am left with about 20% of the original. And I'm like, okay. So most of you are probably not registered investment advisors because all of them just left. Oh, sorry, they're doing construction. So
you're fine.
So really, and no education, financial education, and the survey from Cerulli, so it's a wonderful survey. They're getting their information. Over 60% of millennials are getting their information from TikTok, social media, friend at a party, and my favorite out of 60%, 28%, I don't know. So you put all these factors together, it's a real moment. It's a real moment, not just, obviously I went bigger circle from real estate. It's a bigger moment about investment, personal. I coined the term personal wealth management to distinguish it from advisor wealth management, right? From institutional wealth management, and also distinguish it on the other side from personal finance. So personal wealth management is what we do to take care of ourselves, not our advisor taking care of us, our bank taking care of us, Blackstone taking care of us, not that. What do we do and holistically? And for millennials, it's very interesting. So that's what I've done. Now, within that big circle, we launched 4 funds. The biggest and first was real estate. Noyak Logistics Income REIT. We call it NREIT because BREIT calls theirs BREIT, and SREIT calls theirs SREIT, and Aries calls theirs A-REIT, and listen, I like to be innovative, but I didn't need to remake the wheel on that one. I'm like, there must be something to that first letter REIT thing. The four biggest in the world all did the same thing. Maybe I should do the same thing. Anyway, so we're called NREIT, and we're a little unique in that we focus on last mile logistics, and we have our own definition, of course, about that. We like to define everything ourselves. But accredited investors, which is where everyone plays, but non-accredited investors, direct to consumer, and that DTC term doesn't really, retail investor. I don't like the word retail, and DTC doesn't really work. So I say the self-directed. So the self-directed investor of any size, accredited or non-accredited, we have a REIT, a commercial real estate product for them in a fund. I don't believe in individual deal syndications, never have. Even when we were a multifamily office, we rarely did individual deals, but our multifamily office was one giant fund anyway. So it's sort of a little different. But I don't believe, like, here's the deal, invest in this one. That's a lottery ticket, because that means you're putting the onus of education and due diligence on the viewer to say, that's the right one, that one deal. Because if that deal fails, they're all in on that deal. If one deal fails in a fund, there's probably 50 others that will pick it up. So if there's one mantra, the location, location, location mantra in real estate, I'm diversification, diversification, diversification. I do everything. And if I'm terrorist attacked anytime on a yacht, and they said, if you don't give us one wealth management idea, we're going to kill you with a gun to my head, I'm like, diversification, that would be it. Sorry, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's annoying.
No, we can't.
You can't? Okay, great. I'll stop saying it.
So you're good.
So that is everything we've done. It has been a long, very interesting journey. I consider this now the mission in life, both empowering next generations with financial education and then enabling them with self-directed retail investor funds of all asset classes. So we have real estate, fine art, venture capital. Our real estate raised $100 million in 3 months, I think, 4 months. It was pretty, and deployed. Raised and deployed. Fine art raised $4 million and deployed. Venture capital raised $1 million and deployed. The venture and the other ones are much smaller. They're only $5 million, and they're caps and regulation CF. So we're really becoming a Blackstone for the masses. But
that's awesome.
Leading with real estate. Again, I know you're chairwoman of the PropTech Council, so leading with real estate.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting. Is your venture, are y'all looking at PropTech, or are you not? Or is that something
we are? We have let me see. So we have a thesis. It is not sector specific. It is sector agnostic. Our thesis is female founder, and I can explain why. But so that thesis. So when I introduced venture capital to the multifamily office years ago, I studied it for 2 years. I created. This is how we do everything. We make a decision. We should look at that, and then what that means, that starts a journey of hundreds of conferences, thousands and thousands of pages of reading, and thousands of hours of research. Then craft a thesis, analyze the thesis, revise the thesis, and then scale the thesis. That's been my process since day one. I teach it to all my mentees and people who work with me. So I did that, and I said, we're not just going to do venture capital. We have to have a thesis, and here's the one we came up with: female founder. The reason then, and this is well over 10 years ago, we made 75 direct investments, which is not easy for a multifamily office with a small size to do. The reason I said female founder, and it's again across prop tech, health tech, ed tech, love healthcare. The reason is that then female founders received 6% of all seed capital, but they succeeded. They had successful exits or whatever successful outcomes 50% of the time. That means we identified a giant arbitrage delta. And so if we were part of that 6% in early, when the rest of the world caught up, we would be at the lowest price, and they would flood money into this same thesis, and our
Yeah.
success would be amplified exponentially. That's why. Now, those numbers are different now. This is 10, 12 years ago. So female founders, that thesis is not, then it was actually pretty innovative in being sector. Everyone had little boxes of sector. We had one tiny box of founder.
Well, it's not changed that much as far as how many
Really?
female. Yeah.
I mean, we said it, but that's what our now the fund for. That's what we're doing, female founder. So it's yes to prop tech, but yes to anything that a great female founder brings, and it's a great idea, and it's a great build.
Yeah. So I mean, I think if it's just there's not a lot of companies that are female founded only, right? So they usually have a male co-founder. So that part of that is that. But if it's female founded only, they're only getting 2%. And
2%?
But if it's
wow, I haven't kept up with those numbers. That's
yeah,
painful.
it's sad.
And
and then if there's a female co-founder, they're getting about 20% now. So
okay, well that's really the number I would be looking at. I mean, listen, there's so many. A single founder has a greater, the numbers, the data shows single founders only, male or female, by the way, male or female has a greater propensity for failure. So, I don't think anyone's looking at single founder, gender agnostic. It's tough.
Yeah.
I'm technically a single founder when my co-founder moved to India overnight within 24 hours to pursue generative AI. That's a true story, by the way. I got a text on a Sunday night. My co-founder was living in Denver and loved the mountains. Said I'm moving to Bangalore. So I think this is going to be my exit from our build. And then I called him. I'm like, Sam, you're not going to believe the phishing text I just got. He's like, no, it's true. I'm like, what? You're going to Bangalore? It's like, I am all in on generative AI. True story. I'm like, okay. I actually, in hindsight, this is early in the AI days, early. So he made a pretty prescient bet. Unfortunately, it wasn't on us.
Well, no, I feel you there. People change ideas or minds.
So what would you like to talk about in prop tech?
I would like to talk, since this is more about real estate, and since you're doing so much and have been around in the real estate game, there would be really cool conversation around what are you seeing is from a tech need. So you could be like the voice of the customer here, especially on your last mile logistics. Are there any things that tech is not fulfilling that should be or could be fulfilling today? I mean, is there an open source thing, or is there not?
Okay, so I've had this conversation with Brendan Wallace of Fifth Wall. Prop tech for me has always been about fringe products. What I mean by fringe, in that real estate, it's such a massive industry. There's so many things that are needed, but a lot of those are asset-based problems, asset-based solutions. Like right now, we need to repurpose office buildings. That's not a technology problem. It's a different kind of problem. How about this problem in real estate? We need more diversity. I'm not saying DEI. And we don't need it just as token, meaning you go to a conference, you see the same bald old white guys there. Come on.
I know.
And that all that means is that the same ideas, the same voices, we just keep recycling them like some bad team that keeps finding a retread coach. So here's the problem. Real estate needs new ideas. Real estate investment, real estate private equity, real estate development, new ideas. New ideas don't come from the same faces. I don't care what color or gender they are. Need new. So that's a problem, but that's not a technology problem. That's a human problem. And when it comes to technology, I think it's about how people use real estate. I just mentioned the repurposing of office, commercial office. The repurposing of parking garages is something we're focused on. And there's a lot of technology hurdles in that one bigger attempt. A lot. For example, parking garages are right now, they're structured parking garages, not the ones underneath buildings that are condominium interest. Large structured parking garages take up a lot of land. They're usually in fantastic locations for obvious reasons. And they're now 60% vacant. post-COVID.
Yeah.
So they're experiencing the same issues, not as badly, that commercial office is. And they have great real estate. Now, commercial office is very hard to repurpose. Parking garages are not.
Pretty. No,
But
it's true.
no, they're not. A layer.
Yeah.
I actually call what we're doing a layer cake of logistics, and you just put different uses on every layer, every floor. However, each one of the things that we're attempting to do has a technology hurdle. So while I say that real estate as an asset class has a prop tech issue, I think that's way too broad brush. But to say like repurposing parking garages into cold storage pods or into vertipads for electric air taxis, EVTOLs, like electric vertical takeoff and landing, EVTOLs. Sorry, you probably know that, but I'm just saying it for the audience who may or may not know.
You're good. You're good.
Forgive me for being remedial. I have, like, right now in all of these layer cake, and we want to do cold storage pods. There's a technology issue. We want to do gateless entry because if you want to accommodate parking with cars as well as all these other uses, you can't use the same gate enter exit mentality. So so there's actually a lot of technology being built now specific for garages that includes AI powered video, image recognition. It's amazing.
Yeah.
In fact, another plug, our venture capital fund is one of the earliest investors in Metropolis. Metropolis just paid $1.7 billion for SP Plus.
Yeah.
SP Plus coincidentally happened to be, we own a lot of garages in our real estate fund. So our venture capital fund just bought our real estate fund manager.
There you go.
Total coincidence. In fact, when I got the press release, because I work with SP Plus now for 15 years, when I got the press release, I'm like, oh my God, SP Plus came bought Metropolis. That sounds familiar. Wait, why do I? Oh, we invested in them. Really?
That's
so
cool.
I called up our SP Plus counterparts and I say, hey, you now work for me, so chop. I want to see a report on my desk Monday morning. They're like, what? I'm like, well, I'm the earliest investor in Metropolis, so technically you work for me. SP Plus counterpart. They didn't like it. They didn't find it as funny as I did. So that question about what are prop tech needs in real estate is really a multivariate answer. I gave you an example of what we're facing in that there are specific, very, very narrowly constructed problems within what we're doing in real estate investment, last mile logistics, that do require prop tech answers.
Right.
So there's no one big one, but a lot of little ones. I just summarized everything I said.
No, it's good. I mean, I think that's where prop tech has kind of been so focused lately, and it's caused another inherent problem in the fact that people are solving very specific pain points, obviously, because that's how you get money and you get paid to solve very specific pain points. But the way they were solving those specific pain points wasn't integratable with other technologies. And so it's become now this big, huge problem in prop tech, the fact that no one can talk to one another. There's a million different standards. There's a million different ways.
Very good point, by the way. Yeah. Even on something on the door codes, the door unlocking, there's how many apps, and then a related bought, I forgot who they bought, just because they didn't want to talk to 3 different ones. It's a very good point. That actually triggers I remember having this thought. We had many conversations around this when we were doing venture capital investment, and we were at sometimes we thought in sectors, but mostly we just thought opportunistically across female founders. But we always asked, why are venture founders in prop tech completely think differently, and not in a positive way, and I'll explain, than other venture sectors? And why are the people, the capital that invest in prop tech, also think differently? And what I mean by this is every other sector, the capital says, have big, hairy goals. Think big, solve ginormous problems, throw a ton of, just go for moonshots. And then when they look at prop tech, they're like, oh, can you open my door? Can you check me out of the garage? Can you and they're like, moonshots? That's like, first we're looking up the moon, and now we're looking at our shoes.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
In terms
Yeah.
of scope of problem. And
Yeah.
it always amazed me because prop tech is considered a venture sector, and yet small pain points. That's what you said. That's the way it's been from the beginning. And
Yeah.
when you look at these very small niche pain points, and all of a sudden you zoom out 5, 10 years, you get exactly where we are.
Yeah.
50, 60, 70, hundreds of pain points solved in different ways without standards and without integration.
Yes. Yes.
And
And
that's
and I,
that's why.
I think it's also just the maturity of the industry. I mean, obviously, prop tech hasn't. I mean, their PMS systems have been around forever, right? And that's technically prop tech to me. But the what we're doing today, and the fact that COVID kind of accelerated all of it, and how we're solving different things with IoT devices and all these other, facial recognition and AI just blew prop tech up. And
Mhm.
yes, but I think it's partly just the maturity of the industry. I mean, it's very, very new. I mean, as compared to all the other techs out there, prop tech is technically fairly new. So yeah,
Well,
but
I
it
mean,
is.
what I think we're probably in year 12, 15. I'm trying to remember
Yeah,
when Fifth Wall got started about 11 years ago
10
now.
years.
Let's see,
Yeah, yeah,
14. Yeah, that's about right.
yeah. 2014, somewhere around there.
14.
2014, 2015. Yeah. I mean,
I
it's
don't know.
yeah.
I mean, but listen, you could zoom out and say venture capital is an infant in the asset class world. I mean,
That's
as
true.
an asset class, listen,
Yeah,
when you're 57, you can say something like that. You can't say something
I
like that when
know.
you're 20.
Yeah, I know. I
And
feel
I'll
you.
have a lot left, so let me have that one.
I'll let you have that
I, I can't listen to EDM anymore. I can't listen to punk anymore. So
Oh
I'm
no.
losing all the things I love. So I'm going to own the right to say these grand statements of looking backwards.
There you go. Yeah. No, but I mean yeah, the solving those major problems, obviously, and I think also the major hurdle for, let's talk about tech adoption. So the major hurdle for a lot of, this goes back to the old gray hair guys, of adoption in tech in general, right? I mean, of real estate operators, has been the fact that there's been a resistance to change a little bit, but partly that's because if you go to any property manager on any given day of the week, depending, maybe in the middle of the month they're not as busy, but their hair's on fire usually. Like if you go to a real estate property manager, they're facing different things. So when you want to introduce a new tech product to them, that you're just going to F with their day. Like you're just going to mess up their life. And so you have this whole, how do we get the new technology in? How do we get it and make it seamless and work and actually be successful in an environment that is so reactionary, that is so just there, chicken with a head cut off syndrome, right? I think, and I don't know how to solve that problem either. Right? I mean, it's a
Okay.
barrier to entry almost.
So you triggered two ideas. I'm going to take the second that came about problem solving and the reactionary nature of not just property management but commercial real estate general. You know what I said about
Yeah,
if you look at the faces of a real estate conference,
yeah.
Um, I I built a SaaS software, which was a black hole a while ago, out of the multifamily office about employee engagement. You know the problem it solved in about 7, 8 years ago?
Mm.
Remote work. Do you know how
Hey,
many
there you
people
go.
were working remotely 7, 8 years ago and
Not a
needed
whole lot.
employee engagement? Not a whole lot. Um, and what I missed then, and I mean, maybe it was 10 years ago, and what really has solidified in my psyche when it comes to venture capital, analyzing founders, and if we're doing a build, is start with a specific problem, hopefully a big one, hopefully a big
Hmm.
broad one. Prop tech started with a lot of little ones, and for some reason they stayed there. Some reason the capital wanted them to stay there, and every other sector started with big broad problems. So the answer to reactionary is start with the problem. You asked me, what are the problems? That's the right question. What problems need to be solved? What problems are property managing are already effing up their day, and they're thinking about it regularly, and it's in their subconscious, it's in their conscious, in their cerebral cortex, and present a solution. Don't present a new potential problem, right? If you present something new, the problem is, okay, I'm really busy. This person's giving me something new, maybe great, and now I have to do research that's a problem. I have to go study or come at it from the problem. And that's something, so reactionary is one thing we forget in prop tech is solve problems. I like to say big ones, but solve problems. And then people who like, it will get adopted. The bigger, and this is what I was going to say originally, is how many, in order to get adoption, you need scale. All of prop tech is B2B. There is so little prop tech that focuses D2C. Now, in our B2B, do you know how many giant residential apartment building things there are in this country? Less than 100. I mean, think about that as a tiny universe. I have a list of 600 brokers, 600, that comprise the entirety of last mile logistics in this country. 600 brokers only. So you're talking about massive markets that are controlled by tiny points of spear.
That's true.
So if you try and get scale, so my issue has always been everyone defaults to B2B, a B2B rollout, and think that if I talk to Related, Brookfield, if I just talk to two people, if I get two yeses, I'm at scale. And actually, I think that's wrong. It's easy. It's an easy shortcut. It seems common sense obvious, but it's counterintuitively wrong. Everyone thinks that this is a push industry, meaning the large asset owners are going to push it to their customers. That's wrong. To get adoption in prop tech, it should be pull, meaning convince the users and they will pull it from the giant point of spear or tiny point of spear, giant asset owners. So I actually think one of the greatest mistakes when it comes to adoption specifically is that the focus of all rollouts is the asset owners, is the B2B, and they should be D2C.
So tenants or property managers?
Tenants, purchasers. Yes. Property managers is a two-sided marketplace. Yeah, I would say that. I'll give you an example. I'll give you a real-time example. Built. You know, Built? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking on the founder, but Ken Chenault from Amex. So you would say that it is not a fintech. It is not really prop tech. It's both, actually. It's an affiliate marketing concept. And it's that too. So it's basically Amex rewards for real estate. And that's why Ken Chenault, former CEO of Amex, is on the board. Okay. So they are creating a rewards program if you pay your rent. It incentivizes. I love incentives. The stick sometimes works too, but I love incentives. I love the carrot. They're incentivizing paying your rent, reducing credit loss, increasing retention for the residential multifamily owner. Now, they said the same thing. We're going to roll out to Brookfield, Related, as such. We're going to go to 4 people who own 50,000 apartments. But they had a problem for the same problem of adoption I'm saying. What they then pivoted to is tell the users, market to the users, and they will demand it. And which is how they actually got Related. And they get Brookfield, I forgot. They're now adopting pretty well. In fact, we're investing in a Canadian version of that company, full disclosure. And we're using it for parking garage incentives because who the hell cares about the parking? But you pay a lot of money for it if you drive.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple. I think one, you're talking B2B in the prop tech is actually one of the reasons you have poor integration and fragmented adoption. I think it should be a pull mentality, speaking direct to the consumer user. And it should be giant problems.
Right.
Giant problem solving.
For sure.
I hope that answered your question. I'm not sure.
No, it does. It's actually really cool if you think about it, because then it changes your go-to-market strategy. It changes how you develop your product. It changes everything, but it solves the same problem just in a different way,
You
right?
know, again, wow, you're really teeing me up. And everyone, by the way, we didn't have one pre-call on this. So,
We
and
did
Amy is
not.
right. No, we did not. I want everyone to know, oh, they had three pre-calls. They're just reading off the script. No, we're not. I got up, had 8 cups of coffee, and then Amy called. That's pretty much what happened. But you just triggered another, is that when we were looking at, because I didn't want to slow your roll on a prop tech podcast, but when we were doing those 75 venture as a multifamily office over the last 12 years, we didn't do a lot of prop tech. And I'm going to say that and at the time I really didn't know why. It was more intuitive. We're going to be honest about that. But my intuition was right. And it was about, fragmentation of the problem. They weren't really moonshots, all the things I said. And really the commonality to all the decks, hundreds and hundreds of decks we saw in prop tech, was go-to-market strategy. It was always B2B. It was always the same GTM. And there was something that was, and it was so universal. I'm like, has anyone have a different idea even on that part, like the go-to-market? And I wasn't able to articulate this should be D2C. I wasn't. I am now, after a lot more experience and seeing things, and also we know what happens. So hindsight. So I have 2020 vision now. But I can say that one thing universally is the go-to-market strategy. And I would like to see a prop tech say, you know what? This is really a B2B, but we're going to go D2C to make it a pull mentality, go to market, and then all of the giant B2B will chase us. I would say, you know what? That is innovative thinking.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because you're going to get it. You're going to have to, if they want, it's basically they're chasing revenue at that point. The businesses, they're going to lose market share of either tenants or users or whatever they're calling them these days, or customers, or they change the name often. But yeah,
they're gonna, I'm sorry for interrupting. Please continue.
No, you're good. But I mean, yeah, I mean, so, and the other thing too is, if you think about it, your product development going D2C is much less invasive. It's you could build out rapid prototype something pretty quickly, doing D2C, and then build the back end that the B2B, because B2B is very overarching. You have to have this big system. You have to have a lot of user logins and back end office structure. D2C is really kind of simple and elegant.
And B2B is missing one, maybe for some now, especially in this 2024 era, the most important element of a successful startup. B2B as a go-to-market completely misses it. Large scale feedback.
Yeah.
So when you talk B2B, you're talking to one, maybe two, I mean, depending on how large the organization is, 3 people. How broad a point of view and user feedback are you getting from 3 people? 3 insiders, by the way, who think they know everything there is to know about what they do. Because they all do, right?
Yeah.
Versus the user feedback that helps you iterate your product to the best possible thing it could be.
Right.
And when you don't have that, you're not improving on it. And that's actually what has been borne out in year 12, 13, 14 of prop tech, is that a lot of products stagnate. And the reason is they don't get that early and regular user feedback. They're getting 4 people's opinions. That's not good.
Yeah. I mean, because the end user is very different than the purchaser, right? The end user is your maintenance tech. The end user is that leasing agent. The end user is someone at the property trying to fight with your damn software, and they'd rather use Excel. Right. At the end of the day. Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Imagine building a product that the head of Brookfield Residential Property Management said was great, and that's all you need to know, right? Okay, she said it was great. She said one comment. Great, that's it. We're done. We're good. Versus 8,000 comments, or a beta that goes out with a wait list on product and all of that. Right now, every time, I've done a bunch of Shark Tanks for venture capital across a bunch of sectors, and literally, and with a lot smarter VC investors than me, much smarter. I've learned a lot in these actual Shark Tank. I don't know why I was there, actually, but One of the first three questions these very smart VC investors always ask is, show me your user data. Show me your user feedback. Show me the sample size. Show me the comments. And I was like, oh my God, that's, of course, it's genius. Because then you see the path from then you're even able to say, how can they adapt? What is their adaptability? What is their bench to correct things? Because that's life. Life is always about mistakes. It's not about the successes. It's not nothing is learned from success.
Yeah.
I am what I am from thousands of mistakes.
Well, for sure. Everyone is, right? I mean, you're supposed to learn over time, hopefully. Hopefully you learn over time.
But when you only talk to 3, 4, 5 key decision makers in a B2B world that's as small as the giant multifamily residential world in the US, 5 key players, 7 key players, how is that going to feedback you? How are you going to iterate a product when you're getting 7 insider opinions?
Yeah, no, I know.
So, so these are sort of the anomalies that I see relative to other sectors. And I want to say something about go-to-market. Pharmaceutical industry. Why do I see colorectal drugs ads all the time when I can't buy it? I can't write a script. Why are they selling me? Why are they interrupting my New York Rangers hockey and then telling me 32 seconds of how it's going to kill me after they tell me I was going to do something good for me, which is always funny. And it always amazed me. And then I talked to some really smart marketing folks, and they said, because originally the go-to-market was always B2B, and they realized that it should also be a pull, or should be a pull strategy. So when your doctor, because when the customers, when the end user knows it, the buyers who are pushing it will be more likely to adopt. It's the exact same reason that I think prop tech does have a GTM, go-to-market problem. And I think a lot of them are doing it wrong. They should follow the prescription drug industry on what they do. Talk to the users whether they can buy it directly or not. Talk to the users, get feedback, and iterate product, and then get interest, soak up interest, waitlist, who cares? And with that, you then get B2B adoption.
Sure. That's interesting. That is super cool, man. That is awesome.
You.
That is so good. Well, look at that.
By the way, I already had that idea after my 4th cup of coffee. Now the rest, it just came out. It just came out a lot faster with the next 4 cups of coffee.
Oh, that's too funny. So look, we're almost at an hour, and look how fast it went. It's been such a cool conversation. It was great, and I got so much out of it. And you made me think of all the different things I need to do with my own company. So it's awesome sauce.
Thank you. That's very kind of you.
Yeah, it's very awesome. Well, all right, we're at the end of our lovely conversation. So did anybody would like to get a hold of you? How could they do that?
Please don't. Okay.
And that's why
actually, forget my name.
Week.
I have a lot of content marketers trying to get a hold of me. I cannot escape. And then I have 2 kids who are trying to get a hold of me. So actually, this is a very fortuitous moment. Everything I described as an ecosystem is launching on the 22nd of July. I'm not kidding. So it's been a little bit of a hairy time. Everything is launching. It'll be wearenoyak.com. So
very good.
While it's not me specifically, it's CJ at wearenoyak.com. For your viewers, Amy, just for you, for your thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands.
Exactly.
Feel free. I mean, listen, apparently hundreds of thousands of marketers have that email, so you might as well take the email too. CJ at wearenoyak.com. And you see Noyak right over there, how it's spelled. And wearenoyak.com officially launches after a very long journey, very long iterative user feedback, 3 MVP journey.
Awesome.
Monday, July 22nd. And if it does not, 2 web dev people will be floating in the East River. I can't. My patience for launch dates has expired. I hope I'm going to send this tape to them, by the way. At least I'm going to clip the last clip, because I just want a warning out there that if July 22nd, it does not happen, please get a new address if you're the web developers I'm speaking to.
That is so funny. That should be every CTO's line. If this does not launch, you're floating in the research.
That's it. Come on. I'm
so
Sicilian
funny.
from the Bronx. What would you expect me to say?
Exactly.
What would you expect me to say? Look at the hands.
Sorry.
Look at the hands flying.
Look at
the hands.
That is too funny. Well, thanks again for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And thank you for asking me. That's where it starts.
Exactly. No, for sure. It's awesome. Well, let me see if I know how to do this. So I don't edit, y'all. This is like so silly, and I don't know how to turn this off on my phone. Maybe I do.
Wait, we're just gonna do this all day? I have to stay here?
We're gonna do this all day. Here we go.
All right.